Welcome to today's Muskogee Municipal Authority agenda and meeting, December 12th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Cale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Item number 1.
Consider approval of MMA minutes of November 14th, 2016.
I think those were supplied to us on our desktop here.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 2.
Consider approval of MMA claims for the month ending November 2016.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Chairman and members of the authority, this item allows us to pay our utility operating expenses and debt service, as well as pay our outstanding debt service for capital improvements. We're also retaining in the MMA additional funds as the council has set aside for future capital improvements, and I recommend approval of this item.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. That concludes our Muskogee Municipal Authority meeting agenda, and we'll now move to the Muskogee City Council agenda. This evening, we will be led invocation by Councilman Ivory Van, and then join us for the flag salute.
May I bow our head in this word of prayer, please? Our heavenly, most gracious Father, this evening, dear Lord, just thank you for another blessed day, and thank you for almost the end of the year, dear Lord. And thank you for the blessing our city and all the accomplishments our city and our citizens have done in this city, dear Lord. And Lord, just bless us this Christmas season. Don't let us forget that it is Jesus' birthday. It's not all about Santa Claus. So just thank you, Jesus, for your many blessings you have given us. And just help the many people that's less fortunate than we are this evening, oh dear Lord. Let them know that you're God above gods, and there is no other, and you will supply their needs also. So just bless our city again, dear Lord, and just help us and guide us in this year to come, and that we may still be blessed. So we ask all these blessings in your name for your sake. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us for the flag salute. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Van mentioned a new year. Dang, we're getting close to the new year, aren't we?
Yes,
It's
we are.
just around the corner. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Cale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Move that we excuse Mr. Reed. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We now have a recognition for Employee of the Month. If Stormy Rice would join us down here in the front, and we'll all come down and meet you right here, and we'll make a presentation. It's always an honor to recognize Employees of the Month. You know, Muskogee has about 455 or 57 employees full-time, and there's a lot of them. And it's neat to see that people stand up and above, as Stormy does, in doing their job. Stormy is currently employed as a Public Works Equipment Operator 1 in the Environmental Control Division. Stormy has worked for the city for 10 years and began as a temp picking up trash on the highways, and then was hired as a maintenance worker 1. He was then promoted to equipment operator and spends his time operating a Pac-Man and a slope mower. We'll probably need some more details on the Pac-Man part. Oh, Pac-Man. It actually says Pac-Mac. Pac-Mac, okay. I'm sorry. I like the Pac-Man deal, maybe. In his free time, Stormy spends about 3 hours a day working out and is addicted to the gains he gets from lifting. Wow. He works out an hour in the morning before coming to work, and then 2 hours in the afternoon when he gets off. Stormy was nominated for demonstrating proficiency of his assigned duties. He is a very hard and dependable worker and demonstrates a positive attitude for others. He also goes above and beyond his normal job expectations. He has received many positive external customer comments, and customers have praised his work and his attitude, stating that he is very respectful gentleman and reflects highly on our city. And we're proud of you for that. Let me set this down.
James, I'm still laughing.
You're still laughing at me, aren't you? I don't get it.
I'm like 30 years younger and like 4 inches taller.
I never could. No.
Okay. We're open to nominations for James Gully, comment of the year. Looking in a mirror. Come on. Where are we? Approval of minutes. So let's consider the minutes from the November 22nd, 2016 regular session, and special call section and then the November 28th regular session. Entertain a motion for those.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall. Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda, which is items 1 through 10. Is there anything anyone would like to move to regular agenda?
Yeah, I'm gonna move item 3.
I'm sorry?
Item 3.
Item 3. Okay. Anything else? So items 1 through 10 excluding item 3. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Get a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston. Yes. Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Item number 3.
Consider approval of the formation of a 3-member committee, including Wayne Johnson, Derek Reed, and Marlon Coleman, to review a draft code of ethics for the City Council and take any necessary action.
Councilor Wayne Johnson.
We had discussed before, probably a year or so back, about doing a ethics committee. So what I'd proposed this time, we had had an OML conference, and at that conference I had learned a couple of things about an ethics policy. One, it should be short and to the point, and kind of give you some rules and some guidelines to go by. Then we also had a meeting here in town where OML had give us also some good information about an ethics policy. So from that, I had actually had talked with Councilman Reed, and I had text back to Reverend Coleman and ask if they would serve on a committee where we could discuss and possibly come up and review a ethics policy that I had talked about a year ago, and see if we could bring back that to council and we could have an ethics policy in place. Originally, I had talked about a committee of 3 different counselors that could bring back that policy. I'd also said that we could have that committee could be comprised of 4, but nobody was willing to serve any more than that, so we approved it for a committee of 3. I was thinking that we would be probably after the holidays before we worked on that ethics policy, and I would appreciate all the counselors to provide input on that existing ethics policy. but the guy would be something like the Ten Commandments. I don't mean to be that it would be that stringent, but it would be a guide. So it would be a guide that would tell us what we should do, and it would be more like when somebody comes on the city council, kind of like OML had described to us. There would be a good rules and guidelines that we should follow, and how we should treat one another, and how we should represent the city council when we're in behavior.
Okay,
So that would be my recommendation.
all right. And that's in form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, and we have a
Second.
second? We have a second to that, or we have discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. May I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I want to take this item off the agenda because it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like this clock down here. It's 3 minutes. I know where this 3-minute clock was put here because of me. Also, this rules of ethics is also probably because of me. And because, like I say, up here, sometimes, I have to, my blood pressure gets up a little bit, and I have to view my points. And that's just, that's just me. And since we got 2 minorities on the code of ethics, we might as well just go ahead and put 3, Mr. Johnson. I'll volunteer to be on it. Since I don't never get up here, I'm the only one councilman up here. Nobody really ever puts on a committee or anything up here. So I'll volunteer myself to be on your committee. And that way I'll know what, kind of guidelines I need to go by and how I need to act up here. So I'd like to be on that committee too.
Okay,
I'd like to share some of my comments. Number one, I think this is a good idea. When Mr. Johnson talked about it last week, it seemed like a sincere, prudent suggestion. He did, and I'm glad to see you want to volunteer, but he offered up several times to encourage others that wanted to volunteer, and I'm glad to see you volunteer, but I'm a little discouraged. I wouldn't take this as a personal slight, and don't know how you could. Your ethics are as high a standard as mine or anyone else's up here, I suspect, but you'll be on the committee and be able to help guide this process along, and I'm happy for that. But I don't think you should bring any attention to yourself that it's out to subvert anything you would do, because I didn't take it that way, and I don't think that it would be that way.
Mr. Tucker, with the names given in the agenda item, do we need to, like an amended agenda item, or do we?
Well, we need an amended
motion?
motion, because we've got the motion on the floor, which is to approve as presented.
Yes.
So if Councilman Van wants to make a motion to amend,
I'll make a motion to amend.
Councilor Kale to approve the amendment, that is to add Councilman Van to the committee, and then we've got a motion and a second. We'll need to vote on the amendment, and then that'll change the main motion. So we'll take one vote to approve the amendment.
Okay. Is there other comments or questions? And we had a second to that as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're voting on the amendment only?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. Now we would be voting on the
Main motion.
original
Yes.
motion.
So the motion for approval now is the amended motion, which has become the main motion, which will be the establishment of the 4-person committee with those named plus Councilman Van.
Okay, and then we'll need a motion in a second for that as well, correct?
I thought
We already have one.
Okay.
Yep.
I would like clarification. It would sure not be because of color. I really take, when you made that statement, it would not be that. And it's not my committee, it's our committee. It's to look into ethics. And this is something that we've been needing for a long while. And I really take offense to that when you say 2 people of color and might as well have one more. I do not look in that way. And I take offense to that. I really do. That's why we really do need something of ethics here, that we will move forward as a united body, because that's what my whole deal was in an ethics policy, that we will move forward in a united body, because we do great things here in our community and moving forward. And when I proposed this, and I originally proposed this a year ago, it was for 3 members, and my whole goal was just where we wouldn't have more than a quorum. And it was a mistake that we can have 4 and not have a quorum. And last week I proposed 4, and nobody wanted to serve. It wasn't directed at anybody. I want as much input as we possibly can. Mr. Van, I'll be glad to have you on there. I've been glad to change my motion.
Mr. Johnson, I wasn't trying to make it as color, but like I said, you chose Councilman Reed, you chose Councilman Coleman over here, and like I said, I've been on this council since 2014. Every time it's a position up here of being on some kind of board, only one that's ever appointed me really on a board is Councilman Hall. That's on a board. I'm talking about on a committee. Y'all slight me, and that's the fact. You slight me up here, and you can't say you don't. And I don't mean anything by it. I'm not trying to disrespect you in any way. But like I said, I just say.
Gentlemen, let's draw ourselves back to the motion that we're going to deal with. Okay? We got a motion and a second regarding that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now go to item number 11.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of an ordinance rezoning the property located within the urban renewal area on the southwest corner of Shawnee Avenue and Fairmont Street, more particularly described in the ordinance, from R1 Single Family Residential District to C3 Regional Commercial District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mayor, members of the council, the applicant, Dar Restaurant Group, is requesting approval to rezone 2.29 acres from the R1 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Regional Commercial District. The property is located within the urban renewal area, more particularly on the southwest corner of Shawnee Avenue and Fairmont Street. The reason for the rezoning is to allow the property to be developed commercially. They are proposing a restaurant, Colton Steakhouse and Grill on the property. This item was reviewed and recommended for approval by staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works Committee. Be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, we will now consider ourselves in a public hearing, and no one had signed up to speak to this item specifically, so we will then close the public hearing. Council have discussion or comment for Mr. Garvin?
Move for approval.
Second?
A motion and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 12, and we will consider ourselves in a public hearing on this item as well.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of an ordinance to close North Fifth Street within the urban renewal area between Shawnee Avenue and Martin Street, more particularly described in the ordinance, providing for severability and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin, we will consider ourselves in a public hearing.
Mayor, members of the council, the same applicant and same piece of property as we just discussed about rezoning. This is to close Fifth Street between Shawnee Avenue and Martin Street. Upon review of the request for closure, we found out that AT&T has an existing main hub line that runs through or down Fifth Street. However, they said they would not have any objections as long as there was an easement retained for their existing line. The final plat, which actually was just approved underneath the consent agenda, provides a 38.5 utility easement for the AT&T line, so that easement has been provided. This item was recommended for approval by Subdivision Review Committee, Planning Commission, and Public Works. Again, be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, and again, no one signed up to speak to this item, so we will close the public hearing. Does council have question or comment?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 13.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 82, Utilities, Article 1, in General, Division 2, General Billing Procedures, section as follows: 82-39, new account service fee and transfer fee, deposit required, providing deposit amount set forth in Appendix A, 82-40, utility billing and collection, providing for acceptance of partial payments, 82-42, payment location, due date, providing for additional payment services, 82-43, delinquencies, clarifying billing method, due dates, and service supervision, 82-45, adjustment of bills in cases of undue hardship, clarifying definition of undue hardship and limiting number of adjustments, Section 82-46, charges for shutting off and resuming service, requiring payment of delinquency before restoration of service and establishing additional fee for after-hours, weekend, and holiday service, Section 82-48, billing and payment for water service, recognizing third-party billing service, amending Division 3, water service charges, Section 82-70, new account service fee and transfer fee, deposit required, providing deposits amount set forth in Appendix A, and also amending Article 3, water service, Section 82-199, clarifying prohibition against meter tampering and allowing for emergency disconnection by consumer in certain circumstances, providing for repealer severability and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Pam Bates on this item.
Yes, sir. Tammy Tracy, Revenue Manager, explained what all was in the new ordinance. I think the most important part of it is to allow an additional 7 days to give our water customers to pay before 10% penalties applied. And we had to change our after hours from $45 to $65. And we changed our deposits from 60 and 80 to 100, but we only require $50 up front, and the additional 50 will be charged out in the next 5 months. And we recommend approval.
All right.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
Pam Bates, in case no one said it last week when I wasn't here, we thank you for the work you did to be patient with the counselors as we were meeting in the small groups to be certain that we understood, and you gave us the opportunity to express ourselves, and we appreciate your hard work in doing that and for making it much easier for our residents, many of whom are at the lower end of the pay scale, to have that extra 7 days. I think that's going to make a big difference, so we thank you and your staff for that.
Glad to do it.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bates, could Tammy come up? We had a certain problem the other day, and our citizens here in Muskogee need to know about the problem and what's causing the problem, about the mailing of the cutoffs.
Well, unfortunately, that's not on the agenda.
Okay. I'll tell you what, next year, I'll make sure I put it on the agenda because it needs to be addressed between the post office and the city. That item definitely needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion and a second on this item?
We do.
Okay. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Item number 14.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the Muskogee City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 5, Driving, Overtaking, and Passing, Addition Section 78-172, Duty when approaching vehicle used in collection of refuse, waste, or recyclables, providing for repealer, severability, codification, and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, this is an item that would incorporate a new provision that was effective November 1st within state law, within our city code. And what that is relates to the driver approaches of not just emergency vehicles, which has been in effect, but of refuse, solid waste, or vehicles carrying recyclables. So that would be our trash trucks that are down the road. It would impose a requirement that if it is a 2-lane road, that they move over to allow for those vehicles to drive alongside or to stop and pick up the trash as it may be. But if it's not a 2-lane highway, then to require them to travel with safe and due regard. So this just simply imposes an additional requirement for sanitation trucks, recyclables, and the like that is already shared for emergency vehicles. And our trash trucks do have the appropriate lighting on them. And so we've modified our ordinance to, we've incorporated the state law within our ordinance. That way, if there is any citation that is issued, that's issued within our municipal court rather than in district court. So what this does is simply adopt the state law that was in effect. And we did establish a $100 fine for that, which is our standard traffic violation fine. So with court costs and whatnot, if an offense were to be charged with that, it's $149 inclusive of costs. Happy to answer any questions.
I have one. Okay, so if there's a trash truck on my street and I go around it, I can get a ticket?
No.
Okay. That's the way someone said it, and I was like,
If you drive it recklessly around him, then yes.
I was trying to say,
Because it's all about reasonableness and safety and in driving cautiously. It imposes an additional requirement
so I
for
can
that.
still pass the trash truck.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, Lord, I'd be there all day.
No.
Not all day. They're really fast, but I mean,
Well, who decides if you're reckless?
I was
An
just
officer,
making sure, Mike.
So,
within their discretion.
of those, so they have to be there to see it?
Mm-hmm.
So you
Much
don't
like a
drive
sp-
reckless when they're not there?
Much like
I don't know.
much like a speeder or anything like that, they'd have to be
Okay.
viewed by the officer.
Someone informed me that you couldn't pass the trash truck if it was picking up trash. I'm going, okay, they're fast, but
No, that's the school bus rule. Not,
I know. I was thinking that that's where this was
Right.
heading. I'm going,
No,
okay.
no.
Do we have a motion on this item and second?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any comment or discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tucker, so does this perform any additional hardship on the actual truck drivers of the sanitation work?
No, this is strictly for the public who are traveling nearby those vehicles. The effort was to make the sanitation workers and recycle company workers safer.
Safer. Okay.
Do you have a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a second?
Yes, sir.
All right, roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully?
Yes.
Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Definitely.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes. Item number 15.
Receive report from staff and consider approval reaffirming Resolution Number 2368 without modification as previously adopted by City Council on August 8, 2011, or take other necessary action.
Gary Garvin.
Mayor, members of the council, the Charter Section 810 requires that the redistricting committee and city council review the ward boundaries every 5 years and prior to December the 31st on that 5th year. The redistricting committee did meet last week. I went over kind of the charter requirements at that meeting, so I won't necessarily go over that tonight. I will kind of give you a little bit of background or history on the ward boundaries. Prior to 2011, the boundaries were basically divided by Main Street, being the east and west divider, and Muskogee Avenue, the north and south. At that time, the population between the wards were Ward 1 and 2 had plus minus 13,000. Wards 3 and 4 had plus minus 7,000. As you can see, there was a pretty good imbalance in the population. We then reviewed the ward boundaries and we considered the voting precincts as part of the requirements for reviewing. Typically, we'd use the census information. However, in 2011, the 2010 census did not have the population broke down into census tracts and block groups. So what we end up doing is counting residential rooftops. We used the average person per dwelling at 2.4. We looked at the vacancy rate and considered it 13%. We came up with the estimated population for all 4 wards being plus or minus 10,000. 5 years later, we're looking at it again today. This time we again considered the voting precincts. This time the census information was available, so we used the information from the census. And according to the census, the population between the 4 wards are again plus minus 10,000. Very little change, not enough to actually require us to look at changing the ward boundaries. So the redistrict commission who met last week did recommend no changes to the ward boundaries, and they also recommended to reaffirm Resolution 2368, which established the ward boundaries back in August the 8th of 2011, the existing ward boundaries. Be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Garvin? Entertain a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully?
Yes.
Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes. Item number 16.
Consider approval of change order number 2 to contract with Glover and Associates for the soil stabilization in the amount of $8,200 to take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, this item is to address the project that we currently have, the capital improvement project, the 43rd and 45th Street improvements, along with the sewer improvements that are on that project. The original contract price was $2,064,949.65. We had the first previous change order of $13,127 where we added some asphalt, put some more straw wattles in and some different things that you did approve. That was the first change order. The change order before you today is the second change order, and it's in the amount of $8,200. And this is basically for hydro mulching, an area right there by Central Mortar and Grout where the sanitary sewer line went in. After ODEQ came and inspected our area out there, they determined that the current process that we were using was not sufficient enough and wasn't going to take seed and was going to erode before the growing season came back around. So we looked at that, we talked with the engineer, we talked with the contractor, and we talked with ODEQ, and we came up with the hydro mulching method. We did look, they have, it's about 30,000 square feet. They're going to charge us 24 cents per square foot. Prague and I did look at that. 24 cents is a little on the high side. The average in Oklahoma right now is going from 16 to 21 cents. But to stop, go out for bids and do that would cost much more than the couple of pennies that are above it. We do feel like this is an appropriate change. In the capital improvement projects, as ODEQ is becoming more strong in their stormwater requirements, we're going to, and Ron Bladen and I have been visiting about this, we're going to do a more thorough job in flushing this out in our pre-bid conferences and talk about what methods need to be applied to live up to these ODEQ regulations. And remember that ODEQ reg just changed this year. They started their new year, and construction has got more of an emphasis on it. So anyway, we do recommend the approval of $8,200 to the project. If you'll remember, we did have approximately $3 million in the budget. When you put engineering services in there, we still have a very healthy fund. So we do recommend approval, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Ron and Prague are also here if you have any for them specifically to the ODEQ requirements.
Other questions? Entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 17.
Discuss establishing a Police Community Care Foundation Fund policy sponsored by the Muskogee Police Department and Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, establishing policy on distribution of donated funds to citizens in need, and taking any necessary action.
Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I will read a very brief statement, and then I will ask Mr. Roffinger, who's here tonight, to come and answer any additional questions we have about this program. Also, he is accompanied by Ms. Kim Lynch, who is the Executive Director for Neighbors Building Neighborhoods. Also, Chief Deputy Reggie Cotton, who handles the Community Resource Program, is available for questions as well. Nationwide, states are cutting public education, scaling back on DHS services. Churches are struggling to win souls, and the fallout for cuts to social services has fallen on the shoulders of many of the men and women in law enforcement. Cops carry more burden now than in the history of their oath to protect and to serve. Because of reduced funding to education and social programs and failing family structures, many cops now are tutors, counselors, big brothers, big sisters, athletic coaches, parents, guardians, and friends to many in the community, in addition to their basic job requirements as law enforcement officers. Many of these burdens they carry out of their own personal and financial expense. In modern times, the folly actions of a few have caused the majority of cops to be demonized and persecuted just because they wear a badge. But the record should be clear. Good men and women wear blue and a badge to prevent the bloodshed of the innocent and to capture those who would bring harm to our communities. Mr. Robert Roffling and his partners came up with the Muskogee Community Police Care Foundation to provide desperately needed funding so that cops would not have to have the financial burden of personally providing a need to the community. Many cops encounter families who do not have the basic resources to meet their daily needs, and this program provides some of the assistance that cops can provide residents that far exceed their normal scope of work. Cops are underpaid, underappreciated, and many of their good works go unnoticed. The least we can do is give our nod of support to this effort as an expression of thanks to them for all they do outside of the scope of their normal duties. All of the funds generated through this foundation and administered by Neighbors Building Neighborhoods will be given for the worthy cause of helping cops do what they do, which is to help serve our community. We're pleased to be able to present this program because we have personal witnesses, me and my own family who have law enforcement relatives, uncles who have served our country, have seen how people have gone into their pocket to help our community. Many of our community, according to the record, 92% of our young people on free or reduced lunch. That tells us that many of the people that our cops engage are struggling financially, but they go out of their pockets to be certain that they can provide the need. This program alleviates the stress that they have financially so that they can do what is needed to help our community to be great. So I'm going to ask that Mr. Robert Roffling will come at this time, since he is the chairperson for that activity, and he has given leadership to make the case to Neighbors Building Neighborhoods to administer that program. And I would ask that he would give us some remarks and answer any questions at this time regarding the program.
Thank you, council members. I appreciate the opportunity to come and present this to you. Give you a little background on this very shortly. I see the 5-minute clock. Mayor, I apologize in advance. There's one preacher one time told me to make a short speech, and he had to cut his sermon short, so just fair warning, Your Honor.
We make a motion to get rolling, and we'll see if we need some extra time.
When I
Preach
originally,
fast.
approximately a year ago, I and 4 other friends, we were sitting around talking, and we were continually getting frustrated with the way our police officers were being met in general, how they're being treated, and they're going out of their way, and we know it. And so we made a decision. Do we want to be part of the problem or be part of the solution? We chose to come up and try to do a little bit different solution. Kennewick Police Department started this about 5 years ago, much larger city than us. So we started delving into with council as to legally how we could do this and make this work for a smaller community. And again, addressing that we cannot fix all the problems. And to that end, I wanted to just go with council, with the city council, to tell you what this program is not designed to do by law. When I originally went to attorneys on this, I was given a list of 137 things I cannot do, and only 34 I could. So that set the entire precedent on this. Now looking at this, this is not designed, if the police officers go out on a call and someone's just calling up, say, hey, we need food today. That's not what it's designed to fix. I know there's a lot of officers out there who, they will try to do their best. I can't fix the hunger in the world. I can fix a little bit here and there. We know that when our officers go out, there's been many times when they have specifically gone out on a call and someone else who has nothing there, absolutely nothing to do with the breaking of the law that's taking place. And yet these officers will go out of their way and have to go get someone who has nothing to do with it. They've paid for a hotel room on their own just to make sure that individual was taken care of for the evening. I'm not saying we can always address every one of those, but to me that's important because that individual was not from our community and they just came here. 20 minutes later, there's a drug bust. Has nothing to do with that individual. Individual was totally caught in the situation. And the police officers went out of their way. Our Muskogee police officers went out of their way to take care of that individual. And that's what makes us proud that we have those type of police officers in our community. They're willing to dig in their pocket, even at taking money away from themselves and their family. So we developed this program to try to address some of those issues. And it may be someone's driving through town. A gentleman came through town, a vet, vehicle broke down. He had very limited money because he's on his way to a funeral. He was just asking, where can I go to do some work to try to make some money to pay for this? I mean, the man wasn't looking for a handout. He was looking for a hand up. And the officers who responded happened to know of a specific car repair place. They went and spoke to him. They took care of it at no charge for this guy. And the officers, again, dug into their pockets to get this man a room for one night. And those are the things that really say, what is our community based on? Are we really showing the love that we profess? Kind of hard. A lot of times we don't. And there may be a lot of times as individuals that we've driven around, and I'm guilty of this. You want to stop and help someone, but you don't really know. Is that a legitimate need, or am I just being scammed? And the officers may be called out there on that type of a call. They have an ability, they can check into the background, they see enough of this, they can address this. Their ability to cut through and really figure out, is this true or not? They're used to that. And this gives the officers an ability to go in and do it. I'm not going to address exactly how we are addressing this between Chief Cotton and myself. Just partly because I don't want general public to understand. Other than we have a number of safeguards in place and how these type of calls will be handled. We look forward to trying to do a fundraiser next year. We're going to be doing just one a year, a golf tournament. We're not trying to raise a lot of money, but for the amount of money that we can raise based on what the chief and Reggie Cotton and Officer Garcia, the numbers that they have based, that we're basing our financials on, are exactly what our officers are putting out every month, every single month. So we just want to help them along. Doesn't preclude them that they still can't help. I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to preclude this from any of the city council members. I'm happy to take your check. However, the community, it's very interesting to see how the community is responding. The Muskogee Phoenix was very gracious, gave us 2 write-ups, and that was very wonderful of them. And the response from people just walking up saying, I want to contribute to this. I want to make a difference in my community. And this is a legitimate way because people know there's no salaries getting paid. It's 4 friends of mine, 1 gentleman's retired. The rest of us are in business for ourselves. And it's a way we want to give back to our community. And also, when officers go out, there are many times they go out on a call, and the kids there are afraid to see them because they're afraid of the police officers. There are people that will not make a 911 call because they're afraid of the police. That's not the way I grew up in this country, and I want to work to change that. And I can't fix the entire United States, but I can work to try to change the attitudes and the perceptions in the community that I live. So with that, I'll cut myself off and answer any questions.
You'll yield back the remainder of your 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Are there questions or comments for Mr. Rolfing? I've known Robert for a long time. He's a very passionate person, a very good citizen of the city of Muskogee. Thank you, sir.
I have been blessed that I have survived stage 4 bone cancer. Bob knows part of the story about that a long time ago, but I am probably more committed now than I have been to trying to do more to help my community. I always have been, and I will always have an officer's back, and I have, and I will again. But this is a little bit different way to say thank you to our officers. We appreciate you because you do 1 million calls a day. And we're driving, and we know we're wrong when we're getting pulled over because we're going over the speed limit. We don't like that. And invariably, there's a lot of folks who will try to lay out some kind of excuse. But yet, we're not willing to give our officers, they have to be perfect 100% of the time. No excuses. And that is what I'm proud of our officers in Muskogee. What a great job. They really do the vast majority of the time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your passion.
I've got a quick
Yes,
question.
So this is a program designed, our officers are on the front line of seeing and being in these positions to see individuals or families or what have you that are in kind of maybe in a desperate situation at the moment or what have you. And again, a lot of times when they see a situation like that, take money out of their own pockets, out of the goodness of their heart, because it's such a situation that they just don't want to abandon somebody. And this will be a means for them to make those calls and a way to be able to fund those situations.
That's correct, because they're already doing it, and it's a way to help give them money back. Again, I'm not going to preclude them, because I really believe my faith has taught me that it's good, it's better to give than to receive.
But
there's so many opportunities, but a lot of our officers, they're taking food off their own table to put food on someone else.
They can't do that.
And that may be a situation where the one officer, these people were berating him, and yet the kids needed something. And the kids were afraid to even have had the police called. The police officer sat down, and 20 minutes later, he's playing Pokemon with them. But the kids were in tears to begin with, and they needed just a few basics because the next day they don't have food. But right then and there, those 3 little kids needed love and some food. And that officer flipped right there in that one instance. That officer flipped that attitude with those kids, that the police are not bad. They are our friends. Any other questions?
Other comments or questions?
Thank you.
One thing I'll say,
Council.
oops, sorry.
Oh,
Thank you,
go
sir.
ahead.
One thing I'll say also, Mr. Rofflinger, something that you commented on that resonated with me was that when we were smaller in school, there was ample funding for programs like Officer Friendly. That money was there for the officers to do that. And I think that it's good that we have this opportunity to direct staff to be able to help to put this program together for us, because it fills in a lot of the gaps that children in this generation did not have when we were children. When we were children, we didn't have an inherent fear of police because we had Officer Friendly who could afford to be in the schools because the budgets were there. Now we see such a decline in budgets everywhere. Officers don't get a chance to be seen as officer friendly because the money isn't there for them to be there. And when they are seen, unfortunately, they're all seen as such a negative light that so many people have an innate fear. And I think that giving the officers the resources that they need to be that officer friendly, to give them that extra push to say, not only can you help somebody, but we appreciate what you're doing. I think that's going to go a long way to enhancing the culture that we have relationally between the community and the police. And so certainly, again, I thank you and your team and everybody for what you're doing, because that's going to go a long way.
Thank you very much, Council. Appreciate your time.
Let's get a motion and a second on the floor and see if we can,
I make a motion that we promote and support this, and that we direct staff to look into it and get us started to go forward with whatever we need to do to support our police, which we think they need support and are entitled to it.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Is there other comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 18.
Consider approval to accept an engineering contract funding agreement, amendment number 1, by and between the City of Muskogee and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for engineering services involving Muskogee Centennial Trail Phase 4 in the amount of $19,433, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson, who dreamed and visioned the Garden of Lights in Muskogee. Thank you.
Mayor and City Council members, this agreement was first entered into almost a year ago with us and ODOT for design services for what we call MKT Trail, which is an extension of Centennial Trail to the north. the amendment to this agreement is due to the change of the scope of the project, and so the engineers, the design folks are entitled to additional funds. So ODOT sent us a new agreement. We were asked to bring it to you for your approval because it's an increase in fees. The fee increase, basically, ODOT pays for 80% of the cost, and the city's required for 20% of the cost. Our share now will be $19,433 in this design fee. I thought I'd take the opportunity, though, to tell you why the scope has changed and where we're at with this project, and show you just a few slides for a second. This one's not very good, but this shows Centennial Trail, the city map of how Centennial Trail, the rail trail that comes around from the south, on South Main, all the way to North Main. This project was to extend north, crossing Shawnee Bypass, following the railroad tracks along the waterline easement towards the Arkansas River. And you can see the lines, maybe you can on your monitors, it's not a very good picture here, but where the dotted line stops at North Main Street and that gold line picks up was where the project. I got a couple of pictures here that might be better. So we met with the engineers and ODOT to determine how we're going to cross Shawnee Bypass, because that really wasn't figured out. I mean, we were conceptually, the goal was to get across Shawnee Bypass. I'll show you this slide because there were three proposals. Originally, that green line shows where we follow the railroad tracks and come up to the main line and turn and go. The idea was to go under Shawnee Bypass where it crosses the railroad tracks at that point. Union Pacific said no. They just weren't going to allow us to get up into their property. The engineers came up with the second plan then the second plan was just to cross at Shawnee Bypass, the red line going straight up, following Main Street to the intersection of Shawnee. And then the engineers had another idea, well, let's go ahead and go up to follow the main line and go up towards the railroad tracks and cut off before we get to their property and build a tunnel to go under the highway to get there. Well, the cost of that tunnel used up all of the money and we wouldn't have a trail, so we said no to that project as well. We met with ODOT regarding crossing Shawnee Bypass, and nobody was the design engineers, ODOT, and staff was not crazy about getting up Main Street from that little short stretch and crossing at the intersection. You've got multiple lanes of traffic to cross there, and there's no pedestrian crossing at that point at this time. The solution was, and I hope you can read this sign, is to come back west on Shawnee and cross at Chicago Street. As you know, Centennial Trail crosses Chicago Street before it dead ends up at Main Street there. The idea is we will turn off of, if you want to go north at that point to the new trail, you'd pull off at Chicago Street, and the cyclists would be on street. There'd be a new sidewalk from that point on, and the pedestrians would follow north, crossing at Chicago Street. Chicago Street has an existing pedestrian crossing currently, and of course the traffic is not nearly as difficult getting across as at Main Street. So we'd cross there, and at that point we'd turn east, and there'd be new sidewalks. Again, the pedestrians would be on the sidewalk. The cyclists would share the road. They'd be sharing the Shawnee access street that follows in front of El Chico's and the Chevrolet dealership and McDonald's, and ultimately going to cross Main Street again. So you can see at that point up here where it crosses Main Street. At that point, we're actually going to have to build a pedestrian island in the road there, so that the pedestrians can get across Main Street, have a place to stop before they proceed on to cross. And then they will continue on with the sidewalk east and pick up where the waterline easement is, and from that point on it will be similar to what we've talked about in the past. It will head up north from the fertilizer plant, again parallel on the waterline easement, parallel to the tracks, up to Harris Road. Harris Road may be our destination with this project. The ultimate goal is to get to the river. We hope that we will be able to bid this and get all the way to the river, but if funding does not allow us to go clear to the river, we will might have to stop at Harris Road. I didn't mention that earlier. The total grant awarded to us is $900,588, I think is the total amount. So we're limited to that much money, and we're actually we'll be limited to the amount of our match. So this increase to the design services is going to be part of the match that we were required of, and it's already been approved and we're budgeted for. The funding, the city's funding for this is part of our CIP, earmarked for trails grants, providing that match. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you may have.
Questions or comments?
Mark, at any time, is this trail ever going to like try to wrap all the way around Muskogee and connect to itself?
Yes, there are some. We have a trail master plan that identifies a lot of different potential trails. They've been prioritized by where we have the opportunity, where we own land or where we own right-of-way and easements. And at this point, that's why this one was the next one in line, because we dedicated a trail easement along with this water line easement years ago to take us out towards the north. But there's very few, it's very limited to where we own land or own easements, and there's a few more opportunities, and it's very difficult and can be very expensive too. We were just very lucky to have the opportunity with the railroad, when the railroad abandoned, to create that loop around the west side of town. Making the loop around the east side of town is a little bit more difficult.
I just know a lot of people on the east side that ride their bicycles are going, when's it going to come on our side so we don't have to like ride all the way over there to get on it to go where we're going to? I won't tell you who one of those people are, but I appreciate it. Thanks, Mark. You did a great job.
Wasn't Grace Wilkerson? Who's a bicycler to school?
Thanks for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Please strike item number 19. It'll be re-agended probably in January. Item number 20.
Receive report and discuss future Robinson Park improvements.
Councilman Ivory Van.
Yes, I brought this item up, Public Works, and I'm passionate about this item because 2 years ago, this will make the third year. First year, brought it before the council approved it to go to the foundation for a letter of intent, because we got a grant cycle coming up here in January. The council approved it. But when it got over to the foundation, they turned it down. Now, we're a council, but they turned it down. Again, last year, if you see the way we done it, we took it over to the Parks Department for their approval. So they voted on the items that they came up with, and you can see where Robinson Park ranked. At the very bottom, we got 11. But some of these items on here has already been done. Some of these items also, before we even brought this item about the community building up, some of these other items have jumped up and been done. The reason I'm passionate about a community building over there, because like I said, I look at Elias Park, I look at Silverton Park, and I look at Otter Heights Park. They have a place where they can go and we can have, like they can have parties and stuff. With Robinson Park, we don't have anything over there. We have a shade structure. You have to pay to use that. We got a little gazebo for the fishing now. But still, we still don't have shade. And I think it would be a great idea if we would put a building over there. Even if we didn't put plumbing in it, we'd have a kitchenette or something, you know, in case we had, like portage, like we have between the splash pad, playground area, and the gazebo, and also the skate park. Right in there between that would be a perfect place, because we could have teams come down. I mean, tournaments. People come down from Tulsa all around the state and just have tournaments there. But like I said, I think Robinson Park deserves community building. Now I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna be upfront, and I know y'all ain't gonna like it, but I'm just gonna have to tell you just like it is. When I bring this to you, now you take somebody to come up here with money that has plenty of money, and they brought this to you like I did at Public Works. It wouldn't be no doubt in their mind, doubt in my mind, that y'all wouldn't jump on and say, hey, we're going to do this project. That's just how it is. That's how it's done here in Muskogee. Now, just like over to the foundation. Now, we're going to take it back to the Parks Board. If the Parks Board put it on the same paper like is before you tonight, if they put it back on the agenda to get Robinson Park rated, to get a community building, then we got to go to the foundation again. And at the foundation, if the members over there don't like the idea, they're going to turn it down. I have a problem with that. And y'all know I'm telling the truth up here. You know, let's just be real with each other up here.
Mr. Mann, let's stick to the item that we're receiving a report and discussing the future.
Well, I'm giving you a report,
Robinson
Mayor.
Park improvements, please, sir.
I'm giving you a report, and I'm giving you the truth. But like I say, in my heart, I think that Robinson Park needs a community building, and we don't have any matching funds, but still, I'm going to still try to do my best to take it to the Parks Board, and I hope Mr. Wilkerson has me on the agenda for this month, or before we can get that letter of intent to the foundation, because I want to plead my case, because I live in a community that's one of the poorest communities in Muskogee. But I tell you what, it has one of the nicest parks in Muskogee. And Mayor, you said the other day, well, you got this, you got that, you got this, you got that. But I tell you what, I may not have been a councilman up here long, but I've been working on this project longer than any of y'all been up here. And that's a fact. And I put my money where my mouth is, and my time. And also, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna let it go. I think, you know, we should get behind each other as councilmen, to push each other, to help each other, to get things done. I know it's a lot of items on this that's very important, like the Swimming Fitness Center. That's a very important project. All these projects are important. But still, 2 years ago, Mr. Gully can tell you, I remember seeing him sit right over there. He said, Ivory, he said, it takes a little time, and we're going to work it out. And I remember you said that correctly, Mr. Gully.
Nope.
And like I said, you know, if I don't ask, it's not going to get done. And like I say, I'm passionate about that park, and I do my best to see everything goes well at that park. And items that we do have over at that park right now, we got 2 bleachers for our basketball. Our kids don't have to lean up against the fence with their backs. We got bleachers those kids can sit down on. That was part of the budget. You remember that, Mr. Tucker? We came and asked you for that. So it's not that we get so much. It's just you got to work to what you get. And everything at that park, we have been blessed by the Ruby family and the foundation to get it. But we've had to work hard to get it. And we've had to work hard to make sure people put that stuff in right. So I'm going to close with this. I pray to God that we definitely get somewhere close to getting a community building for our community in Midland Valley, for our kids and all over the city, because we have a lot of people come from all over the city. I go to that skate park all the time, and the basketball court, and talk to those kids. They come from it's just not our community, it's from all over. And you can go to any park in the city of Muskogee in the summertime, and you'll see nothing but kids at Robinson Park. And I'm proud of that. So I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor. And like I said, I will be going to the Parks Board, and I hope this agenda gets on the Parks Board agenda to go for a letter of intent so we can get our building. I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Tucker, is there anything needed on this item?
No, sir.
Okay, 21, please.
Consider appointment of up to 4 city councilors to serve on a hiring committee to fill the upcoming vacancy for the city clerk, review and modify the city clerk job description, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Mike Miller.
Yes, Mayor and members of council, you know that Pam Bates, our city clerk, is retiring in March. And this is our opportunity to try and talk her out of that, or failing that, make a plan to try and fill her shoes. You've asked us to assist you in that process. This is a council appointment position. So we have done that. We have posted, the Job and Human Resources has done that, as accepting applications for that. Also, in private conversations with many of you, we've discussed perhaps forming this committee to be the first step in screening those qualified applicants and then reviewing those and then moving them on further for the council to consider as they consider this appointment. Now, there is a timeliness factor to this, even though Ms. Bates has been very generous with giving us a long period of time and a lot of notice. This process does take some time, and we do want to make sure that we have the new city clerk on board with ample time for Ms. Bates to train this person for a very complex job. She makes it look easy, but it is not easy. Everything she does and oversees and supervises. So we want to give her a lot of credit for that, and also make sure that we're taking appropriate measures to be able to fill that position in a timely fashion. So additionally, would like for you all to look at the job description that we have available. There are a couple of things that I'd like to point out. It requires a college degree and 5 to 7 years of municipal experience with some increasing responsibility. May be that the council would like to consider those qualifications to be preferred qualifications rather than required. My personal opinion is that I think we could have someone very capable of doing that job that does not have both of those qualifications, but that is a council decision to make. But I wanted to bring that forward for you to examine and discuss as well. So at this time, I'd welcome further feedback. And I should say we do have 2 and I believe 3 members who have already volunteered to serve on a committee should you appoint one. I believe Councilman Van, Councilman Coleman, and Councilman Johnson have volunteered to serve on this committee, and certainly it's up to you all who is appointed, but those are ones that I've been notified I think have been willing to serve. So at that time, I'll take further feedback, and both on the qualifications and the process for how we move forward.
Who did you just say was on the 3?
You said Van, Johnson,
and Reverend Coleman, Councilman Coleman. Those had volunteered to be. Okay. Again, the council approves. This is strictly a council position, a council committee. So you guys decide who's on, but those 3 have volunteered.
Earlier, I had told you, I think, that I may not be interested, but I've changed my mind. If I'd be interested in serving on the committee if we saw it that way. Just to let you know.
Are there others that would like to serve on that committee?
I think Dan had, and I'll be glad to step back.
No, we're fine. Go ahead.
I read the job description, and it looked to me like it might take 3 people to do all those things.
So should we make a motion first to change the job description for the requirements to preferred?
I think we can do it all in one.
Can you do it all in one?
Yeah. Who were the committee members? I've got Wayne, Ivory, Marlon,
Patrick?
Kale. Okay.
I think Dan was wanting to, and I'll withdraw. I'll withdraw.
Stay there.
If I misspoke, Mr. Hall,
No, you're fine.
I apologize.
You're perfectly fine.
You good with those 4?
Okay. Then in that case, I think it would be appropriate to have a motion to appoint Wayne Johnson, Ivory Van, Marlon Coleman, and Patrick Kale to serve on the hiring committee to review applicants for the city clerk's position, as well as approve modifying the clerk's job description to make the degree and prior experience requirements preferred rather than mandatory.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Tucker and Mr. Miller. In the event that other questions may come up about the job description, since all of us may not have had the opportunity to review it yet, can the motion have some flexibility to say and other changes as necessary that we might present to the council?
You will have that authority.
We'll have the authority.
us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What I don't want to see is that we take so much away from the job description that we don't get the person that we really need. We got to be very cautious of that, because I know that there are certain things that you can learn on the job, and there are certain things that you're going to have to go to school and learn about it and take care of those things, and licenses, and there's certifications that you got to go through. And you got to make sure that those people that you're going to pick are going to be able to handle those certifications and those tests and everything else that they're going to have to take. So we're going to have to stay pretty stringent on some of the qualifications here, and just not say, well, this is what we want this person, but you don't match this. So be very careful of what you're going to do with that we don't weaken it down, that we have to hire another person to help Pam's replacement also, because then we have 2 people that we have to pay and take care of.
And again, you don't want to be a part of that committee?
No, sir.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Unless we have already
Second.
gotten it. Motion and a second. Any comment or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you brought that up, Councilman Hall, because you have people right now looking at us saying, they're trying to thin it out, ended up, then, and, when you go to school to get a degree, you pay for that degree. You can get so much education on the job also. It's people looking at us, that's saying, well, they know that you got to have these degrees to do this job. And I just hate to see people go around talking and say, well, the city, there they go again, So that's just me personally saying that. But I know how people talk. But to do a job, you got to have experience also. So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Stephen Ezell, you had signed up to speak to us. Would you give us your comments on PTSD? Name and address, please.
My name is Stephen Dwayne Ezell. I live at 6121 South 6th Street East, Muskogee, Oklahoma. I'm a former captain in the United States Air Force's Civil Air Patrol, also later the Army National Guard. And I'm not ashamed to now publicly admit this. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. As all of you may have known, what happened to me about a year ago, my physical injuries have mostly healed. But I still suffer from recurring nightmares. What happened to me? Many times, sudden loud noises. And when I hear cars zooming by extremely fast, much faster than they should be going, it makes me very jumpy, makes me very anxiety. And I used to think that I was so strong that I would never have to succumb. I would never succumb to anything like this. I was so accustomed to, after treating so many others for injuries and hearing the screams of others, I never imagined I'd ever hear the screams coming from myself. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a very, very real condition. And if it's not addressed, and if it's not recognized, if it's not dealt with, it can be fatal. So many times, especially during the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan, there have been so many young people I've seen come back who have attempted to and have completed in taking their own life because of the stress that's been placed on them. But post-traumatic stress can come as a result of many things: abuse, other forms of trauma, loss of a loved one. And I just want to say that I myself am now seeking help for what I'm going through, and I want you to know it's no shame to admit that you have a problem in dealing with this. And it's never too late to get help. The only time it becomes too late, is when you hear that someone has taken their own life. I almost became a statistic a year and a half ago. I did not want to become another one, and nor should you. I just want to say in closing, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God bless.
Thank you, Stephen. Mr. Mike Beck, and I think he has left the meeting room. Mr. Mike Beck.
He looks like he's asleep.
Okay. We'll now entertain a motion. We'll now go to item number 22.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. Pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the urban renewal area and take any necessary action in open session.
Now consider a motion regarding executive session.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second. If you're in favor, Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now consider ourselves in executive session. We will now reconvene from our executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Regarding item 22A, Mr. Tucker.
Item 23A, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the urban renewal area. After being fully briefed on the projects that have been underway within that area, it appears that no action is necessary at this time. Mayor?
Thank you, sir. That completes our agenda for today's meeting.